All right, let's try this again. Welcome back to live streaming, vibe coding and coffee with me, Aaron. Nice to meet you. Um, so I may have to switch to OBS. Camo Studio is just crashing and killing me. So, anyways, let's see if the stream holds. Today we're taking a look at Google Stitch. Google Stitch is not something that I've used in the past. It's just something that came up recently in conversation just regarding its ability, its integration with Antigravity. So Antigravity is an IDE like Cursor, VS Code, Windsurf, if you've used any of those, that allows you to basically AI assisted coding. Stitch, as far as I can tell, is I want to say, like, what I've seen so far of it reminds me a lot of Lovable. I used Lovable quite a bit, like last year, maybe the year before that. It's kind of where I sort of cut my teeth, if you will, on AI designs, AI building AI, Bolt, Lovable. Those were kind of the two platforms that I spent the most time on, or that's where you would find me most of the time. Then I moved on to sort of like Cursor. So I sort of, moved away from Lovable and Bolt because I was just trying to do some things that were a little bit more complicated, a little more advanced, and I felt like it was time to make the jump. So switched to Cursor, and most recently then switched to Antigravity, which leads us to where we're at today with Stitch. So the reason I say Stitch and Antigravity specifically is because Antigravity there's an MCP integration with Antigravity or any other IDE, I think, if you're using Claude. And then you can connect to basically use the MCP to connect to Stitch. Well, that would be useful if I actually was designing in Stitch already. But I haven't. So most of the designs I come up with I don't do a visual mock-up per se. That's not my typical workflow for AI designs. I usually sort of prompt to and then just start building, right? So I'll create a prompt. I'll use ChatGPT. Now I'm using Gemini. Same idea. You just sort of create a prompt, develop a prompt that will help you build this thing out. But I don't usually do that with visuals. So the way I look at Stitch is like kind of like Figma in terms of like screenshots of the UI, building out the UI, mocking it up visually before passing it over to your AI assistant environment, whether it's, again, wherever you do that, VS Code, Cursor, Antigravity. And then from there, connecting all the dots, like wiring it up, making it work, and finishing that stuff. So Stitch, as far as I could tell, creates the screenshots, the UI, the components, and also provides some basic HTML like code. I don't know if it's all HTML or what else is included, but that's, again, what we're looking to explore today. So I'm just going to load up the stream just to make sure that it's okay. All right. So it seems to be working. I just need to go to, just bear with me for just a second. I'm going to switch to the studio so I can get a beat on the stream health, just to make sure that it's proper. And let's see. Let's go to live. Okay. All right. We're getting close. All right. Okay. So we're back in live. And what's interesting is yesterday I actually was not streaming. I was streaming, but I was streaming in private mode. So the entire time I thought the stream was live, when in fact it wasn't. But if you want to see yesterday's stream, I was using Remotion. So a different technology, different type of thing. But yesterday I was creating real estate videos on the fly using Remotion. So Antigravity with Remotion to do that. But today we're switching gears. I thought maybe I was going to pick up where I left off because I still want to flesh that out. I still want to make something a little bit more interesting with Remotion. And the project yesterday with Remotion was just all pretty basic. So anyways, but switching gears today, we're on to Stitch. So if you have questions as we go along, again, this is sort of a ride along. I'm just trying to get myself familiar with Stitch. And if you feel like going along for the ride, then by all means. And if you have questions, let me know. All right, so I think we're good to go. So this is kind of what you would see once you log into Stitch. You just sort of I have no projects in here. These are all example projects. And so when you click on one of these, the way they sort of load up to me again reminds me of like Figma, right? So you have these like these designs here. This is just, again, we're just going to go through the examples just so you can get a sense of like what the interface looks like, how it works, and just some sample projects. And then we'll get into like building something that we come up with. I have an idea, but if you have some ideas for this, we could do that too in real time. All right, so this is like an indoor plant care design. We'll just briefly go through these projects just to get a feel for, again, style. So this looks like it's for an app, right? App design, single screen app design. Again, these aren't functioning. These are just static shots of the components, I guess. And these, so far, I've only seen one single design. So again, we'll go to, just combing through these. Also, we could take a look at the starter prompts for these. So it's mobile friendly home. This is mobile friendly home for a marketplace of handmade ceramics and pottery with minimalist taupe theme. Right, so that was I think the sample prompt, and then you ultimately end up with something like this, right? So, again, if you spend any time in Figma, which I spend very little time in Figma, but this is more or less, I think, what you would typically see in Figma. Here's a board game club planner. So this one is a little bit more involved, it looks like, in terms of the prompts. This one says, I'm working on a mobile app for my board game with a friend group. I'd like the application to have yada yada, calendar view, next event, creation pages, new events. So this was like multi-screen. This looks like it has multi-screen. So let's see if that is in fact the case. Even though I can only see one screen, I don't really see more than that. Well, so I don't know how to, I'm just going to expand this real quick just to make sure nothing's hiding behind the scenes, which it's not. So we will, let me just look at that prompt again. Let's just take another look because there's several screenshots here. Let me just see. It looks like it iterated quite a bit, but what I'm looking at is a single sort of entry form here. Let's take a look at the pizza class. So make a landing page for a homemade pizza cooking class, elite class happening once a year in Napoli, I believe. So let's just get this on screen so you can see it. So this is more of a finished landing page, finished design. So this is a little bit closer to what I would expect to see in Lovable in terms of like Lovable or Bolt, something like that. Visual designer, sort of create me a website for a cooking class, right? This is kind of what I would expect to see from like AI Studio or just any sort of place where you have a basic prompt and sort of get, a nice looking but basic thing back. So this is like a full site design, and then we've got so here it's iterating and it looks like it's updating on the fly. Again, we'll get into this, but we're just going to quickly get through the rest of these projects. This one is a personal photo library. Again, I don't think any of these are working in terms of like prototypes because you can't click on them. If you look here, you can view the code or export or download. So there is some code you can set. So it's not just a render, right? So it's not like a static image that was rendered using like an image gen model. Like it would be a really nice model if it had this kind of detail. But these are actual, there's code behind it. So you can export it. If you export it, it looks like, well, I don't know. It doesn't want to export it for me, but you can view code or you can download it, right? So that's kind of the options here when you get into these. And then we'll just take a look at the employee feedback form. Look at this design. And again, same idea. You can view the code behind it. You can see that there's actual working code that's built this thing, mostly CSS, it looks like. pretty static. So again, HTML file, it's got some metadata, but it's got inline style sheet. So it's just, pretty straightforward. It's not like a React app, I guess, or like it doesn't have, it's a static design, if you will. But needless to say, visual design. So you can at least see it, right? So these are some of the more interesting components so far. And again, I don't know, actually, so see, on this particular example, this one has more options. So you can actually copy this to Figma. Again, try to export it. And I don't know why it doesn't export. Let me just try it in. Sometimes I don't know if the view that I'm using for these vertical streams is changing something, the behavior of the Chrome browser, but that doesn't seem to be the case. All right, let's see. In terms of settings, what do we have here? Under settings, we have usage, so we haven't really done anything today. I guess you could have an API key. If you created an API key, I guess there's probably an endpoint you can call to generate things like the code, the prompts, the projects. And again, that's probably maybe for a follow-up session, follow-up stream where we actually think about how we want to get this into Antigravity. Today, I think I'll probably stick with, hopefully maybe with the, with like getting this to AI Studio. So that would be cool. If I could just get something to AI Studio from here, then that would be cool. All right, so we kind of went through the existing designs. Nobody shared a design with me. If you have a design to share, then by all means, you can ship it to me. But that's where we're at. And then on this screen, let me just see if I can make this a little bit bigger here so you can get a better sense of like the UI. All right, so you have a couple things. You can start with a new design, or you can start with the app design or start with a web design. So web design would be more, traditional desktop design, and then app would be more if you're designing for mobile, if you plan to produce an app or something probably a little bit more mobile responsive than web, even though web should be these days inherently still mobile friendly, but maybe not native, like native to mobile. So those are the two options here. You have a couple choices in terms of the model that you want to use. You can use the fast design, which is Gemini 3 Flash. I don't know if there's a difference between fast and 3 Flash. Thinking 3 Pro, so that's Gemini 3 Pro, or you can do a redesign. So I guess maybe use Nano Banano to try to copy something, emulate something. So again, in terms of the interface, you got the models. Here you can upload an image. So if you have existing screenshots, or you can add a website URL. So if you were trying to create a design that's similar to something that already exists, you can supply a URL. There's a couple of prompts that are pretty basic here. Mobile-friendly home for a marketplace of handmade ceramics and pottery. We've already seen that in the sample images, and then also make me an app for people who love skiing in the Alps. Again, those are already part of the stock things, so we're not going to reproduce something that already exists. So instead, maybe what we should think about doing is coming up with a prompt. And again, the one that I had today is for a 3D body scanning, let's just say app. Or should we build out a website? Actually, let's make it for the website. So we'll design it for a web. And it's going to be, I'm just going to go to Gemini real quick and try to come up with a prompt real quick. So help me. And actually here, let me just throw Gemini up on the screen so you can see what I'm doing in real time as opposed to guessing what I'm doing. All right, so help me generate a prompt for Google Stitch. Let's just say specifically what we're doing. So there's some context to conceptualize the design for a 3D body scanning website that visualizes users, body measurements and data. Okay, so the reason that's not just a random prompt, it is something that I've used in the past as well. I have a tablet. Well, I have like a Samsung tablet, and long story short, it does body scans. So similar to kind of like if you were trying to get your BMI, body mass index, you're trying to get some other dimensions like limb lengths, torso width, shoulders, like more advanced stuff than stepping on a regular scale and just getting your weight. A 3D body scanning thing does like a full body rotation. It measures all your sort of like dimensions, almost if you were like getting fitted for a suit. And then you have a bunch of, you basically have a bunch of measurements, like really sort of detailed measurements about your body. And what I thought would be cool is if you could just take that, it's through a service called Fit3D. There are several different, there's Body Shape or Bodies, there's several different companies that do this kind of thing. But once you have the data, then you can feed it. In this case, I want to feed it somewhere and then help me visualize it, help me understand my body, maybe just have a discussion with it, talk to, ask questions, that kind of thing. So this is where that concept is coming from. So the master prompt. All right, so help me generate designing a 3D landing page for a scanning service requires a balance of high-tech precision and approachable wellness. Since you're looking to conceptualize this via Google Stitch, the prompt needs to emphasize the UI UX elements. So again, in this particular case, I think it's important that we mentioned Google Stitch because it already has some context about the way that we should structure the prompt. So that's always what I think is good to do, is to give it context. So like, where are we building, so that, most of these models are pretty current, and Gemini is Google, and Google should understand that Stitch is their product. In theory, it has the context. So in this particular case, it says we should talk about the UI UX elements, data visualization, transparency, and future aesthetic. All right, so let's just talk about the prompt. Create a high-fidelity web design concept for a 3D body scanning and biometric data platform. The interface should feature a sleek, dark command center, aesthetic, neon, cyan, silver accents. Central to the layout, translucent, rotating 3D human wireframe. To the left, include dynamic data models. So the 3D rotating human wireframe model, I've never been able to successfully render that using like 3JS or anything. Only maybe, again, because I've been describing it with words. Maybe if I actually handed over a image, then something like AI Studio or Antigravity could know exactly what I mean. In the past, it gave me like 3JS blocks and they just looked terrible. Also, never really had the best luck with 3JS. I don't know. It seems like I see some really cool 3JS projects, but I've only been able to come up with some basic stuff. It's not all that interesting. To the left, include dynamic data modules showing 3D real-time metrics like body fat, muscle mass, symmetry score, glass morphism. If you have an iPhone, you know what glass morphism is, because that's kind of Apple's whole aesthetic right now. To the right, display a chronological progress chart with glowing line graphs. Use a clean typeface. Vibe should be medical grade meets luxury fitness, emphasizing privacy, precision, and futuristic data visualization. Okay. All right. So that's the prompt. We'll just roll with that. So I'm just going to copy the prompt and then we'll chuck it into, we'll chuck it back into here. So Stitch, again, this is the same screen. I'm just going to literally just copy and paste that. We're going to go with should we go with an app design? No, because I think most people would want to visualize this on their desktop, but we can see. Let's just start with the web. We'll just use a stock model, Flash, and then just go from there. So I'm just going to say go, and I think I can't see what I need to see, which is the arrow. So let's just prompt away. Okay. All right. So again, we're in Stitch. We got the prompt on the left. It is stitching or doing whatever it is doing. So create a high fidelity web design concept for 3D body scanning. So it's basically got the thing. It's got like an imaging. It's imagining it. It's got the estimated time. So it looks like 40 seconds, 30 seconds. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for future live streams, Vibe Coding and Coffee, where we do this kind of thing. It's either a ride along, a hangout, a watch me build session, an educational session where maybe I have more experience with something and I'm just trying to show you something, or we just shoot the, just hang out. All right, it's forging the final design. Forging. So we should see what we get here in just a second. I don't know if this is going to be a single screen, one screen, two screen, or if it's just going to be a single sort of design. But let's just push this and see what we got. So it looks like we got two screens just coming together. Adding a splash of color. Just one more moment, or just a moment more, it says. So it says the model here, 3 flash, and then... So the interface actually does remind me a lot of like your lovable and bolt sort of setups. You've got left panel prompt in the box, and then right side would be your canvas. And that's generally how lovable and bolts are sort of like laid out. All right, so it's adjusting spacing, still working. I'm here still sipping. Stream still looks good. We're about 21 minutes in. I don't know how long I'm going to keep these streams. I want to keep them somewhat on topic. So again, today we're talking about Google Stitch. Stitch as a AI design, sort of a preliminary place to visualize before you actually get into full-on coding it out. So I guess, again, if you're thinking about similar workflows, Figma, taking Figma designs and then using those Figma designs and turning them into actual prototypes, websites, usable things. So in this particular instance, we're going to hopefully push this to AI Studio. In future sessions, I want to get this into Antigravity using the MCP server that was just announced for Stitch. So what that means is you can use Antigravity or Claude or any other IDE, and through the, it's a remote MCP server, so you kind of have to configure cloud authentication for it, which is the only reason that I didn't want to do that today, because I didn't have any of that set up. So yeah. All right, where are we at? Oh, we got some designs. So high fidelity designs for your 3D body scanning service, biometric command center, futuristic dark, luxury fitness, analytical body scan analysis, some more. So this looks like, I think maybe create a deep dive for screen. All right, let's take a look at these. Let's close the sidebar so we can get a better view of these. Let's zoom in. Let's see what we got. Let's take a look at this first one. So, all right. Okay, so it's got an overview. It's called Bio Command, New Scan, Scan History, Biometrics, Lean Mass Progress, Body Percentage. So yeah, so pretty cool. If on this visualization, if that could actually happen, that would be pretty neat. And an AI Insight sort of module. So these are all things that sort of exist on the 3D body scanning service, or in terms of the measurements. You do get BMI, your muscle mass index, symmetry scores, things like that. So this might be cool. And then let's just take a look at this other design. So this looks like it is the biometric. So they've got a bio command center, and then you've got the biometric command center. So this looks like it's more detailed. More detailed scan of things, muscular density, circulatory path, like almost as if you drill into some of the sections here. So what should we do from here? I don't feel like these two things are very integrated with each other. Like they feel somewhat disconnected in terms of like, they feel like separate entities. Like they don't even sort of match in terms of color. Like this is a green sort of background system, and then this is like a black. So let's just do this. Let's come back to the prompt and say, how can we make these screens more integrated so they feel like the same app? All right, so that's the first sort of thing for me. And again, this may be just my lack of understanding of the Stitch framework in terms of like what I was expecting as a deliverable. But let's, while it's doing that, it looks like it's going to compose a screen. It's it's again working behind the scenes. You can see that over here. But let's just take a look and see what the options over here are. So as we look at this, so again, okay, it looks like it's stacked. It just stacked these. So for options, you've got variations. It looks like you can regenerate it. There's some sort of predictive heat map. No idea what that is. It's generating it. So it's generating a heat map, maybe based on what it would expect or where it would expect people to click. Again, not 100% sure, but it is still generating that. So generating the heat map, you have variations. You've got the ability to add to chat. Okay, so we've got a heat map. Okay, so it looks like this is where, in terms of like, if you're looking at traditional sort of design intent, UX, like where people would visually be, where they would spend time looking or clicking. So if those line up with your goals in terms of what you want people to do in terms of an action, like for instance, new scan, that seems, some people will look at the dashboard. Most people look at the body fat percentage. And then a lot of people will look at the symmetry score and AI Insight as opposed to anything on the left or the right. So it's mostly nav, AI Insight call out, and primary metrics, which makes sense. They call them primary metrics. Let's look over here. Okay, so this is, and again, this is where, again, I'm just not familiar with what's happening here on the interface. So let's go back and see what the prompt said. All right, so how can we make these screens more integrated so they feel like the same app? To make these screens feel like a single integrated application, I've implemented a unified design system. Okay, so what does that mean? It looks like down here. Okay, let's not move that. Let's just line it back up and then take a look at the new ones down here at the bottom. So integrated alignment. So beyond the heat map. Okay, so it looks like it's sort of subtly, and I know it's probably hard to tell. Let me just see if I can zoom in here. But it simplified the left side nav on the main screen, and then also sort of collapsed it here. But to me, they still feel disconnected. Maybe it's just the background color. Maybe it's because one of the sidebars is collapsed. But I saw this trick. Let's just see this. Let's try to make it one landing page. All right, so can we make this one landing page instead, but still feature the various sections we need to visualize the body measurement data and analysis. Okay, so I'm going to try to collapse this into a single design and see if that helps. But if we don't make much more progress there, then we'll just simply move on to pushing it to AI Studio to see if it can actually make this a working thing. So again, let's just take a quick look. All right, here's what we've got so far. I'm just going to leave this on screen so you can kind of see what's happening. And then in the prompt, it's adjusting spacing. It's still working, so we'll just wait to see what happens. All right, and if anybody has tips on using Stitch, let me know in the comments. You probably won't see this live, but if you see this in the future, it should be it'll probably be archived on my page somewhere. So, okay. All right, here we go. Now we've got something that I think I was envisioning before a little bit more closely. All right, so let's just do this. Okay, so this is kind of what it's come up with. Bio command, your body decoded, precision intelligence, next generation 3D biometric scanning. Okay, so it's got performance analytics, twin engine. Okay, great. Okay. All right, so now we have kind of this design. So let's see if we can push it somewhere. So we've got this. Let's just see. So if we export it, okay, it does nothing as far as I can tell. Hold on, let me just take a look at full screen to see if there are any options I'm missing on here. More export. So if I click export, I don't actually see anything happen. So we can upload these files to Canvas, which Canvas, I don't know where that exists. If you right click, okay, so let's just come back to center stage. All right, so there's some options here to view code. Again, you can view the code. We did that already. You can hide this, I believe. You can rate it. You can add the chat, annotate it, edit theme, and again, produce variations, regenerate, or do a predictive heat map of sorts. But I think what we want to do is I want to try to get this to AI Studio. So I don't, if you right click, here's another thing. So if you right click on it, you've got similar options, but you have different ways to view this, I guess. Add to chat, you have all your variants in terms of the layout, predictive heat maps, regenerate. So a lot of similar things that you would find under the sort of 3-dot simplified menu. But I'm still trying to export this, thinking that it will go somewhere. But let's do this. We can maybe copy this, export, edit, rename, open sidebar, share. All right, well, tell you what, how do you, let's come back here. And this is prompt Gemini. How do you export a Stitch design to AI Studio? And we'll see if we can get this moved over. If not, then we'll just end the stream and call it a day. All right. As of late 2025, Google's updated Stitch with a native integration that makes moving your AI much simpler. You don't have to manually copy and paste. It's now a one-click process. Okay. How to export it. Ensure you have the Gemini 3 Pro agent in the top toggle of Google Switch. Top toggle. I'm sure you have Gemini 3 Pro. Okay, I don't think I have that in the top. Standard mode, agent compatibility. If you use standard mode or an older model built with AI Studio, try switching to experimental mode with Gemini 3 Pro. Okay, let's try switching to experimental mode with, let's go to settings. All right, so daily credits, it looks like so far in terms of prompting, 18 out of 400. So you could go on and do this quite a bit. Allow AI model training. I don't see any other settings here. I don't know that we need to create an API key to get it to AI Studio, but I don't really see any other way to do that at the moment. Settings, share, enable sharing. Okay, no, that's like sharing with somebody else. Edit settings, delete project, send feedback, rename project, unsaved changes. Share, if I click share, nope, same idea, same concept. All right, well, tell you what, let's see if we just can take the design itself and copy it. Copy. I'm going to load up a new instance of okay, so we're just going to do this. I'm just going to copy that main image, right? And I'm over now and we're building with Gemini. So this is AI Studio. So I thought there was an easier way to get this over. There probably is, and I'm just missing it. But for now, we're just going to copy the main design that we had running. So that would be this one. So just literally copy, Control C, and then come over here to AI Studio, Google Apps, click on Build, and then you end up here with your design. You just paste it in there. So describe your idea. All right, so this is for, let's just take the prompt that we had, the original prompt that we used initially for the concept, just to make it easy. And we'll just leave everything as is and see where we get with this build. All right, so again, what we did so far, we went into Stitch. We took a look at some sample designs, created some ideas for a 3D scanning website app that can take measurements and stuff like that, or input measurements. The idea is that you actually upload measurements. And actually, I think what I'll do is I'll show you some variations that I built out in AI Studio for the same concept, just so you can see where I was trying to get with this, I guess, at the end of the day. All right, so it's still building. We're still building. I think, was this Flash? I'm not sure if we used Flash or Pro for this. I think we used Pro. Oh no, we used Flash. So if you want to change the model in, okay. All right, so here we are, and here's the interpret. This is usually what I get, honestly, with, let me go, I need to hide the prompt if I can, or actually let's squeeze this over. Back to start. Let's see if I can get this sidebar collapse so you can actually see the thing. Okay. So this is what it built using Flash. And I know you can't see, it's not the best view, so let me open this up a little bit more. And then see if I can collapse this even further. Let's preview it. Hide preview? No. Preview? Yes. Full screen? No. All right, well, here you go. So this is the little illustration, which isn't great. Again, very basic, but it followed the same kind of concept, right? So it's got the body fat percentage, it's got the scores, the performance analytics, it's got the same chart. And if we look at our original design, I think we can load it up here. Let me see. Yeah, so here's the original design, but you can tell straight away that you don't necessarily get the fanciest animation here in terms of the visualization of the body. I have no idea what's happening here, but it's emitting, it's emitting, it's like a radar. Body fat percentage, but it has the same sections, digital twin engine, same colors, same footer, more or less, as the original design, right? So that was the design, performance analytics, digital twin section, medical grade reliability, and the footer section. So yes, from here, again, you sort of tweak, you try to fix these things, you try to flesh it out, make it more actual, usable. And let me show you some projects then that actually are a little bit more interactive, but also built in AI Studio. So let's switch gears for a second away from Stitch. This is kind of the result that we got from Stitch with single shot prompt, right? We're not making any revisions here. We're not going into detail on this, but this is kind of where we started with Stitch, brought that in, and then you sort of build it out in AI Studio. Again, in the future, I'll have this sort of wired up to hopefully Antigravity using MCP server, and then we could just avoid the hassle of copying and pasting the image into AI Studio or wherever else you need to go, and it can just import the code. I think that's also another thing, is it doesn't have the code base behind it, right? So in Stitch, it actually has code behind it, right? So if we look at this design and we look at the code, this is not what AI Studio has access to at the moment. So I didn't ship this, probably could have, should have, and then it would probably be a better overall experience with in terms of keeping the concept intact if it had actually shipped it with the code. All right, so that's that. Let's take a look at, let me just pull up my previous project here for the body scanning stuff. Let's see if I have it. I think I did it. I think I did a few versions. Okay, so let's take a look at this one first. This is a Fit3D Unwrapped. So this is an unwrapped style, sort of like Spotify Unwrapped. This again was built using AI Studio. We're just gonna collapse that. So the idea with this one is, let me see if I can actually go full screen and then preview. All right, I'm trying to make this a little bit more interesting to look at on screen. So what you do is let's just take sample data. This is basically my data, demo data. But this one will create a story using your data, right? Or using my data. So it sort of does this thing where it has more of a story component, and it's more of a unwrapped sort of experience. So you got animations, you've got data, you've got a summary at the end, and then you've got like a final score, right? So this is the idea with this one, was to sort of like tell a story using the data from your body. So you upload your scan data, and then it tells you how many scans there are. It does actual analysis. It has some calculations. Again, this is where I think I mentioned earlier that I've just had no luck with Three.js in terms of like making anything that looks cool. Instead, I've got, sort of CAD looking drawings. Some of these graphs are cool, interactive. So weight, and then this is over time. So how many pounds lost, symmetry, power, stuff like that. So this is, again, one example of using data like this in terms of visualizing data that I was trying to go with before with this. And then here's probably a better example of what I was trying to achieve today in terms of where I was going with this entire thing. And I think it's this one. Give me a sec. Okay, yeah. So let me load this up. Let me get this back on the main screen. All right. So this is probably a bit closer to what I was envisioning. I was building today with the body data, right? So you upload the CSV, right? So there's a preview. I don't know why I can't get this to go full screen, but it doesn't like me today. Full screen preview, hide preview. No idea. Usually I can preview this in full screen, but let's take a look at this. So you upload your data, and then it inputs it here. So you have trend vectors. Like, this is much more interactive and I think much more cool looking. So you've got these animations. Again, this is based on actual body scans. So 170, these are all my metrics: body fat, efficiency, lean mass. You've got trend vectors. So this is actually where I started dieting last year. So it has the July, August is kind of where I changed my eating and then dropped a bunch of weight. And ultimately, I'm trying to get some of that weight back. Then you got structural integrity. So this does more of a mass composition, like what part of your body is lean versus fat, where the volume is in terms of and then you have I'm just not even gonna try that word right now. Basically, it's looking at your hip ratio to waist, like your taper in terms of like shoulder to waist ratios, and then you've got a symmetry scan. Right, and then you've got displacement data, and then you've got this AI neural link, which then allows you to chat with your data. So basically, you can chat with your measurements if you have questions about like any of these specific things. So that's kind of where ultimately I think I was headed with this, or thinking that we can get to. But needless to say, I don't think that's unachievable. I just think it would take a little bit more work. These were designed strictly through prompts, again, in a more sort of iterative process. I think the starting prompt on this one was something that I had constructed from ChatGPT. So I had given ChatGPT my body measurement, my CSV scans in terms of all the data points, and then asked how we could build it into an app that can display it all, right? Whereas with Stitch, what we wanted to do was conceive it first in terms of visualize it, and then get it into code, or then take it from Stitch and get it into a working version. And we did. It was just much more basic than the example that I just showed you. So just a couple different ways to get there. I think if you look at the similarities, it's very clear that the direction, the overall direction was the same, sort of like the tone, the aesthetic, the vibe. It's all, thinks it's very futuristic, 3D body scanning. Not to say that it needs to be. It can be more organic, earthy. It can be whatever you want, but for whatever reason, AI just thinks that body scanning is, futuristic and needs to be sort of this style, presented in this style, medical grade, very blue, very, that kind of thing. So you can craft this to your heart's content in Stitch. But again, today was just to get a better sense of Stitch and how you could use it in your workflow. Some of the things that sort of bothered me was that the export stuff doesn't seem to be working. I don't really know. And then I don't see the direct way to share it to AI Studio. So if you know how to do these things, like if I download this, okay, so it just downloaded the screen. Looks like maybe there's some data here that probably includes the zip. So actually, let's do one more thing. Let me see if it can actually, let me see if this can actually pull in a zip file. So I'm going to see if, and it doesn't like it. So I don't think AI Studio will like my zip. So no, it does not. So we won't worry about that for now. But what I got was a, zip file. And I'm sure if we unwrapped that, uncompressed it, and then took the code and then things into AI Studio, we could get it done. But maybe that's for another session. For the time being, thanks for watching. If you have questions, you can find me here. Leave a comment. I'm going to drink some more coffee and probably water so I can stop coughing here on stream. So see you in the next one. Peace.